Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks everybody for coming out on a gorgeous Friday night. Our author appreciates it, we appreciate it. You're always supporting independent bookstores by being here, so thanks for being here. I'll get a few announcements to make, during which you can check the cell phones, make sure they're on silent or turned off. Everyone around you will appreciate that. And as they say in the movie theaters, if it's not an emergency, it can wait. So check your cell phones. If you haven't had a chance to pick up a copy of tonight's book, the books are available at the registers behind you. And in about an hour or so, after some presentation and some Q&A, you'll have a chance to pick up a copy or two. Once you paid for them, bring them on back in here, and our guest will be signing at the table next to me. If you know what this book is about tonight, it could have ended up in our grieving section, considering the subject matter. It's actually listed in our biography section because it is a memoir, but about half of it could be in our humor section as well. So, and that's one of the great things about this book tonight. There are many memoirs around this kind of subject matter, and not all of them are quite as funny. Not all of them are quite as savagely funny as our guest book tonight. A lot of you will know Bryan Bishop from the Adam Carolla Show, which has been on since 2006. You may know him from his syndicated morning radio show, which has evolved into, and I'm quoting, the world's most downloaded podcast, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. He's also appeared as a contestant on Comedy Central's Beat the Geeks, and on the sophisticated game show, syndicated isn't really sophisticated.
It's sophisticated.
It's not that sophisticated. Yeah, come on. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? No, it's not sophisticated, but it is syndicated, so yeah. And he lives in Los Angeles with his wife, Christy, who's definitely a character in tonight's book. But born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, down the peninsula in San Carlos. Would you please welcome Bryan Bishop.
Thank you guys for braving. Turns out the Bay Area has traffic. I didn't realize this, but thanks for braving the traffic and coming out to spend your Friday evening, or at least a very small part of it, with me. This is a very special night for me. I grew up in the Bay Area, in San Carlos. Went to high school in San Mateo at Sarah High School, and from the beginning, one of the first goals for this entire thing when I started writing the book was I'd like to have a signing in the Bay Area. I'd like to do a reading, and some of my family come out, some of my friends. I have friends from college and friends from middle school and elementary school. This is such a cool moment for me. So thanks for allowing me to share it with you and sharing it with me. And if it's okay with you, I'll read a little bit from the book, and then we'll do a Q&A. I'll answer any questions you have about the podcast or the book or Christy, who is not only a character, but the star of the book. Anyone who will ask, I will tell her. Christy is the star of the book. So happy to answer any question you guys might have. Pour myself a water. There we go. Okay. I will read from chapter 21. This is called, yes, Lies Doctors Tell You, or You're Gonna Feel Like $1 million. Here we go. Once I got back from my bachelor party in Las Vegas, I only had 3 more weeks of chemotherapy and radiation left. I was at the halfway point of my first round of treatment. Once I finished those 6 total weeks, I'd be done with radiation for good. Radiation was a one-shot deal, my doctors told me. Chemotherapy, on the other hand, would continue indefinitely after I got a 4-week holiday where I didn't need to take my nightly chemo pills. My body had essentially been poisoned for 6 weeks with daily radiation and chemotherapy. It needed time to recover. Luckily, the end of my first round of treatment coincided with the start of our wedding celebrations. Just a week or so after I was scheduled to have my last radiation treatment, we'd drive up north to the Napa Valley, California's wine country, where we'd be married just a few miles away from where we got engaged. My doctors were supportive of our quest to do everything as normally as possible for our wedding. I specifically asked a lot of the same questions I asked about my bachelor party. Could I drink? Yes, just not to excess. Could I be in the midday sun? Yes, just wear a high SPF and don't get burnt. Could I take my chemotherapy pills into a topless club and ingest them in front of a confused stripper? Our doctors assured us on several occasions that I'd feel like $1 million once the radiation had ended and I was off my chemo pills. Wow, I remember thinking $1 million. Sounds far-fetched, but hey, if they say so. Despite my worsening condition, I was optimistic. The last 3 weeks of radiation were considerably harder than the first 3, and the chemotherapy I was taking every night was only exacerbating things. My vision was getting a little bit worse. Due to weakening muscles in my face and lips and tongue, my speech was getting harder to understand. I lost about 10 or 12 pounds. My slight limp had degenerated into a pronounced limp. It got so bad that I was fitted with an ankle brace that I was now wearing full time. Only the ankle brace required a larger sized shoe on my left foot. So with my tail between my legs and my pride swallowed, I went to the discount shoe store and bought 2 pairs of old man shoes. All black, Velcro shoes in 2 sizes. A normal size for my right foot and a size larger for my left. Further adding insult to injury was the fact that my parents were in town for this humiliating shopping trip. They had flown in for a weekend visit. In the saddest pre-wedding family outing ever, my parents, Christy, and I went shopping for cheap shoes that I could wear with my new leg brace. I mentioned earlier how I'd been trying to meditate, or at least do some positive visualizations. Kind of like The Secret that Oprah's always yammering on about. If you concentrate on something enough, a positive outcome to a situation, or something you want to achieve or attain, then you supposedly increase your chances of attaining it. You always hear these possibly apocryphal stories. One group of basketball players physically practiced shooting the free throws while another just visualized making the free throws. And when they both went to shoot the free throws for real, they both made the same percentage. Well, when I meditated, I'd picture my last day of radiation. I'd picture my tumor shrunken and shriveled, and I'd picture how good I'd feel. I'd picture Christy and me in a celebratory embrace, with everyone else in the waiting room applauding us for a job well done. There also may have been swelling music and singing birds. Hey, it was my fantasy. Towards the end of radiation, after a particularly taxing morning, I remember seeing Christy in the waiting room. She looked tired and run down. I'm sure I looked 10 times worse. Limping, slurring, skinny, probably in my pajamas, and with my usual crisscross pattern imprinted on my face from the too tight radiation mask. We were both beat. Plus, we had the stress of an out-of-town wedding to look forward to. I held her hand as we walked out of the radiation center. I swear, I muttered under my breath, I'm gonna dance out of this place. My optimism was crashing head-on into my frustration, resulting in a pool of defiance on the asphalt. I was pissed. Why was I feeling worse with each passing day? Wasn't all of this, the medicine, the radiation, the meditation, supposed to be making me better? I was happy that my time in the radiation center was almost over. I was glad to hear that soon I'd be feeling like $1 million. I was excited to get married, but I was also angry. This was supposed to be a glorious, celebratory time in two young people's lives, and cancer was cheating us out of it. I remember I wanted to yell at my tumor the way Lieutenant Dan yelled at Forrest Gump. Did you hear what I said? You cheated me. I had a destiny. I was supposed to die in the field with honor. That was my destiny, and you cheated me out of it. This wasn't supposed to happen. Not to me. I had destiny. Unfortunately, I couldn't yell at my tumor, or else I'd look like a crazy person. So I kept calm and focused on Friday, June 12th. Is that today? Yeah. Holy shit. Well, I'll drink that.
Is that in the book?
That's in the book. Some brilliant person wrote this. June 12th, my last day of radiation, graduation day. Wow, 6-year anniversary of graduation day. Thanks for celebrating with me. When graduation day came around, I really was feeling like $1 million, emotionally anyway. Physically, not so much. Most of the time, Christy was now helping me walk around, usually in subtle ways, like just holding my hand. But between my worsening sense of balance and my weakening left side, I needed constant monitoring. The risk of my losing my balance and falling to the ground was very real. And as a result, I never strayed far from Christy's side. I'm sure to casual observers it seemed sweet. Oh, look at that devoted young couple, they're always by each other's sides, holding hands. But to us, and especially to Christy, I'm sure, that kind of thing gets old fast. And besides, who wants to be that kind of a burden to his fiancée? Needless to say, I was very much looking forward to a few weeks down the road when I'd feel like $1 million. The graduation day started out like any other day of radiation. Checked in, I got buzzed on my restaurant-style pager, and I lay still for 10 minutes of radiation. And when it was over, Len, the sushi-loving tech who had helped us find our lost diamond, handed me my radiation mask. Here, it's yours. We don't need it anymore. He paused and he smiled. And neither do you. I held the plastic mold of my face in my hands. I stared at it for a second. Here was memento from my life. Quite possibly the most important artifact I'd ever hold in my hands, if you think about it. And all I could think was, what the hell do I want this for? Seriously, what was I going to do with it? Hang in our guest bedroom, scare neighborhood kids with it, eat popcorn out of it? And I could tell Len considered this to be a solemn occasion, so I graciously accepted my gift. Back in the waiting room, Christy was standing, saying goodbye to some of the friends we'd made in our 6 weeks there. She was exchanging hugs with Herb and Faye, the older couple whose mother had lived in our very apartment years earlier. While I was inside getting treated, they had given Christy a gift, a box of C's candy. Sweets for 2 sweet people, they said. They included a card that said, to the happy couple. It was part wedding gift, part graduation gift. You two are the sweetest, most wonderful couple, they had told Christy earlier, so we wanted to give this to you. I didn't know it at the time, but another patient, a woman named Anne, approached Christy that morning while I was being radiated. Christy wrote in her blog that day, while Herb, Faye, and I were chatting, Anne came out after finishing her treatment session. Bryan and I hadn't chatted or gotten to know Anne more than the daily smile and, hello, how are you, when we walked into the waiting room. But as she was about to leave, Anne walked up to me and said, I don't think I even know you, at which point we introduced ourselves, but I want to tell you that you and your fiancé made every day here better for me without even knowing it. Your energy and your smiles really made me feel good, and I want to say thank you and congratulations on your wedding. It was a good time to take a cup of water. Christy was overwhelmed, and so was I when she told me about it later. Now here's a tumor tip. You never know who's watching. You never know who you're inspiring either, just by being yourself. Just showing up every day with a smile on your face can brighten someone else's day. And most of the time you're not even aware of the effect you're having on people just by being positive and upbeat. If everyone went through their daily life thinking, I'll bet my behavior is affecting someone right now, I promise this world will be a better place to live. I came out of the waiting room with my, I came out of the radiation room with my mask in hand. Ready to go, I asked Christy. Just then, Sinead, our other favorite tech, came running out with a piece of paper. Here, she said, before you leave. I looked at the paper. It was a diploma signed by everyone who worked there. Certificate of Achievement, it read. Oh, great, I said with a smile, a participation trophy. We all laughed. Sinead wished us well and went back to work. I hugged Christy and gave her a kiss. Do you remember what I said? Do you remember what I promised you on our first day here? She smiled. I do. I took her right hand in mine and wrapped my other hand around her waist. It was time to dance. We got only a few wobbly steps into our impromptu dance when a man came up to us who we had never met before. He was wearing a knit cap, presumably to conceal his radiated and/or scarred head. He introduced himself as Amit, his voice revealing a Middle Eastern accent. It was his first day there, and his partner, Miguel, looked terrified. Amit's brother, who was also there, looked exhausted. Apparently, he had just flown 15 hours from Israel to be there to support Amit. In a shaky voice, Amit looked at us and he said, I don't know you, and I don't know what kind of brain tumor you have. Geez, I wrote this crap. I think I wrote it. Amit said, I don't know you, and I don't know what kind of brain tumor you have, but I have one too. This is my first day of radiation. Would it be okay if we exchanged numbers if I have any questions? If I can look the way you look after 6 weeks of treatment, I'll be a really happy man. Can we turn the camera off? I don't want this to end up on YouTube. I cannot see this later on YouTube. Christy later remarked that meeting Amit and his entourage was like looking into a mirror at us just 6 weeks earlier. Nervous, scared, uncertain. Oh, thanks. Get that out of here. I don't need that. I'm a professional broadcaster. Thank you. But willing to cling to any hope that might turn up no matter what it looked like. For Amit, hope looked like a guy dancing with his fiancée on his last day of treatment. We exchanged phone numbers that day. I told him to call me anytime, about anything. Amit never called me. I have no idea if he's even alive today. But that day, for at least a few minutes, we helped Nick's first day. We helped make his first day of cancer treatment a little less scary. You really never know who's watching. Thank you. Emotional, not just because I never heard from Meat, which obviously is from the book. I had a very weird coincidence about 6 months ago where someone I get emails all the time from listeners of the show. My email's on the website, and I say, email me anything you want, and people email me a lot about, cancer-related stuff, brain tumors, my friend, this and that, my wife, my husband, whatever. And this guy emailed, and he's like, hey, my name's Amit, I get treated at Cedars-Sinai. I think maybe, I don't know if you wrote about me or not, but it turns out it wasn't him. It was a different guy. My heart skipped a beat. I was like, oh my God, this guy found me? He's alive, this is great. It wasn't him. It was a different guy, also named Amit, who also had a brain tumor, who also was at Cedars-Sinai. And he got in touch with me, and I emailed him back, corresponded a few times, said keep up the good fight, all that stuff. And his wife emailed or texted or whatever they had. I know you're keeping in touch with Amit. He's not doing so well. He's in the hospital. I said, what's his room number? I showed up and I signed his book, and I met him, and I said, keep up the good fight. And he passed away a few weeks later. It happens, and it happens. Doctors try the best they can, patients fight the hardest they can. But I guess the lesson is, and Amit lived this, even though he passed away, never quit, never quit. So that's it. All right, fun time's over. Now the serious stuff. Thank you for letting me have my therapy sessions here with you tonight. That's very helpful. Okay, thank you guys for allowing me to blubber in front of you. That was very, very embarrassing. Happy to answer any questions you have about the book, about the show, about anything. Please don't be shy. I promise not to cry again.
You don't want to answer questions about the illness, though, right?
I'm happy to. I wrote a book about it.
What kind of symptoms did you get in the beginning that made you suspect something was wrong? Like, what were the first kind of things that made you say, hey, something's not right?
Initially, so I was working for a morning show at the time. Like, it started at 6 a.m., so I'd get to work at about 5:15 a.m.
Right.
And I'd feel weird symptoms around like 8 in the morning, 8:15, 8:30 in the morning. I'd feel a little tingling around my lips or my tongue, or my scalp was a little numb. And I always wrote it off as, there was always an excuse. It was, oh, I'm not getting enough sleep. I only slept 5 hours last night, or it's something I'm eating, or it's I go to the gym every day after work, and it's like I'm not getting enough rest between work and the gym or whatever. And I was able to sort of understandably explain away the symptoms because they were minor and they'd come and go. And it's funny because my good friend John is here, and John I think may have been there that night that I realized something was really wrong. I realized something was really wrong when I was hanging out with my friends and drinking beer, and I had, I think, 2 beers, and it felt like I had about 8. I mean, I was sitting down, I had a couple beers, Bud Lights, I wasn't drinking like heavy beer. I had a couple beers over the course of an hour or 2, and I'm like, all right, time to go to the bathroom, and I got up and I fell off my chair. I just fell on the ground, and I was like, I'm not an amateur beer drinker, so this is something's up. So it was at that point that I went to my wife and I said, something's up, we need to see a professional.
Okay. I was wondering. I got this numbness in my fingers. I was just wondering if that might be. Was that any reason?
I never had numbness elsewhere. I mean, but it also has to do with the fact that my brain tumor was on my brain stem, and it was touching my cranial facial nerves. So everything I felt was in my face. So different for every person, obviously.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yes.
Were you able to maintain some humor during the whole process, or were you in a fog and only kind of later looking at it were able to find some humor?
I thought I was hilarious the whole time.
You were on drugs.
I was on drugs, so I'm not a reliable source. I did my absolute best. I was able to laugh at myself. Like, for example, I was, I think I may have alluded to it in the reading I just did, but not only was Christy helping me around everywhere, I was on a walker full time for months. I mean, for 4 or 5 months, I had to use a walker just to get around my apartment, let alone around the world. And so whenever, I would meet up with friends or meet up or go to the podcast or go anywhere where I was with my walker and I'm limping really badly and using my walker, I would, I'd say, Grandpa's here, because I'm trying to, people are uncomfortable when you walk into some place with a walker and you're 29 years old. So I try to lighten the mood with that obviously hilarious joke. But thank you. But so I did my best to maintain my sense of humor and in our business, in the world of comedy. Funny is funny. I don't care if it's at my expense. If it's a good joke, I'm in. I'll laugh just as well as anyone else. Yeah. Yes.
Bryan, considering how much trouble you were having just now, reading from the book, did you have trouble writing the book? Did you have trouble going through memories and stuff?
I didn't write the book. I had a ghostwriter.
Oh. Did she have any trouble writing?
She said it was real help. There were a few times where it kind of feels so weird. I do remember though, I would get emotional a couple times when I was sitting alone on my couch writing, because a lot of this stuff I hadn't told anyone else. But, even including Christy, a lot of the times things I'm writing about, things I felt, the way I felt at the moment, the way I felt looking back on things, I hadn't expressed to anyone. So it was a I think it's an overused cliche, but I think it's a cliche for a reason. It was a very cathartic experience. Writing, just getting it all on paper. I encourage anyone who's been through any kind of trauma to get it down on paper, let alone publish it. So yes, I did get emotional through a few times in writing it, for sure. Yes.
My stepdaughter, when she was 18, over 20 years ago now, had an acoustic neuroma and was treated in LA. She's paralyzed on one side of her face. But other than that, no long-term effect.
So she's a survivor. That's great.
Sure. But she's never done what you're doing. She rarely talks about it, except occasionally to say, I can't hear you.
Sure.
She hasn't had the catharsis you've had.
Yeah.
Is there something we should be doing for her?
Well, that's a great question. That's a great question, and the reason it's a great question is because early on, right after I was diagnosed, the decision had to be made, because I was part of a popular podcast at the time. The decision had to be made, do I go public with this? Do I tell people about it? Do I tell the listeners? Do I tell the world about this? Not that I'm world famous, but do I let the public in on what I'm going through? And you guys know, whenever you hear about a celebrity who has maybe cancer or AIDS or something, they're dead the next day because they've kept it quiet, and you find out, oh, this person had this and now they're gone because they kept it quiet, and that's their choice. That's 100% their choice. For me, I decided right away to be very public with it and to go on the podcast and talk about it, and because I already, well, number one, practically, I didn't want to be out in the world somewhere, out at a restaurant or something, and be going through cancer treatment and not tell anybody, and have someone from somewhat fan of the show recognize me and say, oh my God, what happened to Bryan? He looks terrible. Or just, Bryan disappeared for a while. He's not on the podcast anymore. He's been gone for months. What happened to him? Practically, that didn't make sense. And also, I didn't want the spiritual toll on my soul of having to keep this a secret. And that's just me. The other people are comfortable with that and they prefer it. I understand that. For me, I couldn't have the weight on my soul of not being able to tell people what I'm going through, not being able to have the support of friends, family, strangers. And that was the ancillary benefit, which I did not anticipate, which was amazing. As soon as I discussed it on the podcast, to this day, but especially the first few days, dozens and dozens and dozens of emails. It's just people saying, hey, thinking about you, or when I heard this on the podcast, it felt like a friend of mine had told me that they had cancer, because I don't realize, I do now, I realize the power of what we do, but I didn't realize that we're in people's ears, and we're in their cars, and we're at the gym with them, and it's an intimate, talking to people and talking about our lives, and it felt very, for me personally, felt very disingenuous to not talk about my whole life. You know what I mean? Obviously there's certain things I'd rather not discuss, but this thing that's this big of a deal that I believed I would need the support of many to get through it, I felt like I had to be upfront about it. But I can't say that's the way for everyone. It's an individual choice. I'm not prescribing this for anyone. I'm saying for me, that was my decision. Did you have a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listen to the show. I'm a big fan.
Thanks.
And I know you're insanely self-confident.
How dare you? That is true.
Especially when it comes to TiVo games and such as
That is true.
I'm not very far in the book yet.
Okay.
But
spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I live. The hero lives in the end.
Well, no need to buy it then. So, was there ever a moment in the journey where your go-getter, self-confident attitude slipped and there was doubt, and how did you deal with it?
I don't know if you've gotten to this part in the book yet, but have you gotten to the part where I received the initial diagnosis? Okay, well, I think I've discussed this before, so it shouldn't be a huge spoiler, but the first doctor I saw, the guy who delivered my diagnosis, explained what I didn't explain. He told me what I had, and I said, well, realistically, what are we looking at here? And he said, typically in these cases, I say 6 months to a year. And I now know what it means to break out in a quote cold sweat. I was sweating, but I was freezing. And my first thought in my mind was, holy shit. And the next thought, I'm not kidding you, was, well, that's not going to be me. Now maybe that's foolish or self-delusional or denial or whatever it is. Right away I was just, that's not going to be me. We'll figure something out. 6 months to a year is not going to be me. So maybe it is that insane self-confidence you talked about, and that was based on nothing. That's not I'm the best cancer fighter in the world. I was just, no, not going to be me. That's for other people. That's not for me. So maybe it is that blind confidence that sailed me through the initial, devastating diagnosis. Good question. Yes?
Was your choice of title for the book in any way based on the Hamptons episode of Seinfeld?
Was the title based on the Seinfeld episode? Good question. The title, I will give full credit to my editor, who when we sold the book, when we sold the proposal to the publisher, to St. Martin's Press, my editor, who was assigned to me, said, my agent said, they may want to change the title. Is that okay? The title was An Inconvenient Tumor. And I said, if they're buying the book, they're the customer. They can change whatever they want in terms of the title. I don't care about that. And so he came to me with a couple titles, one of which was not that good, and then the second one he said, well, how about Shrinkage? And I was like, that's a great title. That's kind of a double entendre. It's kind of funny. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's got the Seinfeld pop culture reference. I don't think it was precisely based on that, but you can't say Shrinkage without thinking Seinfeld, I would imagine. So I think there was, and plus, all the publishers are in New York, and Seinfeld are a New Yorkie show, so I'm imagining there was, some fanship there. But I think it had at least a little bit to do with it. I think it was based on a lot of things. Obviously, the tumor shrunk. Spoiler alert. Sorry, I know you're not finished with the tumor shrunk, but yeah, I think it had a little to do with those things. Yeah. Oh my God.
There you go.
All right, Fred.
Hi. So in the book you wrote about wanting to go to Italy.
Yes.
And now you can cross off New York Times bestseller. Is there anything else that you want to cross off the list?
Bay Area book signing. Oh, did that. It's just, sadly. Honestly, when the book, what was the other thing? Oh, yes, okay. I had two goals for publicity when the bucket list things you're talking about, when the book was being published. I got, there's a publicist who works for the publisher in-house, and they're like, okay, well, these are the things we're going to do for you. We're going to set up a book signing here in Manhattan, and we're going to try and get you on this TV show, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, great. I have literally two big asks. I'd have to go on the Colbert Report. Obviously never happened. Now cannot happen. My favorite TV show, and they have authors on all the time, so I was like, oh, that shouldn't be a big... Turns out they couldn't do it. And I said, I want to throw out the first pitch at a Giants game. That is still on the list. That still could happen. I just threw out the first pitch at a Padres game. Not as good, but I figure if I'm ever going to do it at a Giants game for real, I need to at least have one under my belt, you know what I'm saying? So throwing out a first pitch at a Giants game would be one of the last things that's really on the list. Other than that, everything else that comes down the pike is just cool. Like, oh, you want to do a signing in Book Passage to Cornbread? I'm like, yeah, totally. I'm at a bookstore. I like to go there. So everything else that comes is just sort of icing on this. I mean, this is the cake. It's just having it, you know what I mean? A physical copy is amazing. Everything else is icing. Yes?
What's next? You doing any more writing, or?
I'm gonna fly back to LA tomorrow and watch the Warriors on Sunday. Yes, it's funny, people ask, are you gonna write another book? Writing a book, for me, was a Sisyphean effort of pushing a boulder up a hill forever. You're never done. I'm never done. I'm here doing a signing. It's literally never done. This is the fun part, but when you're done writing, that's barely half of it. It's editing, and it's photo sessions, and it's publicity, and it's interviews, and a lot of this is fun, but it's an effort. It's a lot of stuff, and I wrote this book literally as though I'd never read another book, because I didn't think I'd ever read another book again. I put everything, literally never worked harder at anything creatively in my life, so I would need a little bit of lead up to write another book, for sure. It's an effort, but know that I put a lot of effort into the book. Further another question? We can wrap it up. Yes.
So I was listening to the show back then when you were going through treatment.
Yes.
And you could hear that you were definitely struggling some
Yeah.
days. Was there ever a time when either you or the rest of the guys you were working with kind of were thinking maybe it's time to stop showing up and talking on the microphone every day?
Well,
I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah, everyone I've worked with has considered at one point maybe it's time for Bryan to stop showing up and talking on the microphone. But you know what? I thought to myself when my speech got to my tongue from radiation and the swelling and everything, half my face was numb, my tongue was numb. I was slurring my words really, really badly to the point where I was hardly intelligible at all. And I was convinced, well, my career in broadcasting is over. I'd better find something else to do if I ever do anything again. I wanted to go back to work, but I saw no light at the end of the tunnel. But Adam Carolla, my boss and friend, is really an incredible person. I mean, he is a loud, angry person sometimes, but he's an incredible person. And never once did he ever say to me, maybe you should take a break. The show's suffering because of you. Even though the show was suffering because of me, he stuck with me, and his loyalty is, I have a hard time putting into words how impressive it is, and how much it meant to me. Just giving me the chance in my career in the first place, let alone sticking with me through very thick and very thin. So, no, I had those thoughts, but those thoughts were never expressed to me, strangely. I'm sure people are thinking it. If you thought it, I mean, not that I shouldn't be, you know what I'm saying, but I'm sure if that thought entered people's mind, I'm sure, it entered theirs.
I don't think I was thinking it at the time, but now looking back at it, it was clear that you were struggling.
I'd imagine if you went back and listened to those shows, it would be jarring. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so I'll never go back and listen to them. Yes?
I'd like to make a comment as a female listener to the Adam Carolla show. I adore Adam and think he's the sharpest mind, but I appreciate you not necessarily sharpening his hard edges, but kind of making it a little bit easier sometimes to understand.
Well, you're clearly a genius.
But I think your mind is just as sharp.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thanks for listening. Yes?
How do you think it's changed your outlook as far as the everyday goes?
I'll tell you what. There's a series of books called "Don't Sweat the Small Stuff." Don't sweat the small stuff. Don't let the little things in life drag you down. Don't worry about those little things. They'll take care of themselves. Focus on big. Forget that. Sweat the small stuff. In fact, sweat the small stuff and be glad you can sweat the small stuff. I remember the first time post-treatment when I was just starting to get better, and I had left a letter or a bill or something out for the mailman to take. Like, you leave your mail in the mail slot, and the mailman takes it and, and delivers it. And the mailman that day forgot to take it, or didn't take it, or whatever, just refused. And I remember getting so pissed, like, God damn it, I didn't take the letter again. And I paused and I was like, is it nice to worry about letters not being taken and not worry about chemotherapy and radiation and brain tumors and if I'm gonna live to see my 31st birthday? Like, it's great to sweat the small stuff. So I would say, be glad when a little thing goes wrong in your life, because that little thing that you're so worked up about, that's a big thing that you're not worked up about. So enjoy, is what I learned. Oh, yes.
On a recent show, a caller called in and gave you a real compliment, the book. They purchased the book and they felt inspired by it. And then you used the drop all up. And I'm trying to understand, what is the background to that drop? Is that when you get a compliment, you always say holla?
So, just in case you guys don't know, one of my roles on the show is actually sound effects, and I grab clips from the show and I use them out of context, hilariously, I would add. And one of our callers once was a very downtrodden woman. I think she called in because she was either having trouble like feeling happy or she couldn't enjoy things in her life, and Adam was trying to basically say, come on, turn that smile upside down, quit being such a downer all the time. Like, he was kind of getting into her. He's like, come on, cheer up. And she's like a real monotone kind of person. Okay, Adam, I don't know what to, come on, come on, be happy. And she paused, she goes, holla. And that's a great drop, so I got that drop, and now I use it whenever anyone says, oh, hey there, Bryan, holla. It's very incongruous between the unhappy woman and the happy drop. I love it. Yes?
How does it feel to have surpassed Anderson in drop skills?
Well, Anderson, the cranky.
Can I record this before you? Can I record you saying this?
It's already. It's going on YouTube. Well, Anderson knows, and he should know. If he doesn't know, he should at least know in his heart that I have surpassed him years ago. He's the cranky engineer from Loveline who, all joking aside, taught me everything without teaching me, because he would never teach me. He'd never go out of his way to teach me anything. I learned from him by watching and listening. Was the best drop person I ever heard, up there, and even better than Fred Norris from Howard Stern, a guy that I really respected. So even though Anderson is cantankerous and combative, I still look at him as an inspiration and a mentor, and a guy who I would not do today what I am doing exactly without him. Delete that from the recording?
Yeah, it's already done.
Okay, cool.
Holla is in there.
Holla is in there. Any more questions? Yes, there is one more.
So, I'm not sure if you addressed this in the book or not, but have you had conversations, I'm assuming you have, with Dr. Drew since, and how do you think?
With Dr. Drew?
Right.
About anything? Yeah, I see him all the time.
Well, not about anything. About the fact that when the diagnosis that he had told Adam.
You know what's funny about that? Yeah, she's asking if I had any conversations with Dr. Drew recently or since the book, and what's funny about that is I went on his radio. He has a midday radio show in Los Angeles, and I went on it, just last week, I think. And I actually asked him, I was like, Drew, I've never heard you talk about, when I was first diagnosed, I called Adam Carolla because I was supposed to go to work for him on Monday, and this is a Thursday, and I said, hey man, can't go to work, I have a brain tumor. And he called Dr. Drew, because Dr. Drew is a very smart medical professional, and I asked her, like, what was your reaction? Because I've actually never heard you talk about this. Adam talks about it in his conversation with you, what your perspective, and Drew said, well, I'm glad he didn't tell me at the time, which was, based on if it was growing, your tumor, and based on the fact that it was diagnosed means it probably was, it was not a very likely outcome, what we're looking at today. So I like to say, Christy and I like to say that we're living our best case scenario, you know what I mean? Because anytime we have anything go wrong, we have to replace our fence, it's at $8,000. And I say to her, wait, if someone told you 6 years ago we'd be replacing a fence at our house, you'd say that's the best case scenario. It's like, you're right. I'm like, think about it that way. So it's the best case scenario, being here tonight with you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.